Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. And you see him right there, the legend, the Hall of Famer, one of the greatest Browns ever. Joe Thomas is with me today. Later in the show, stick around because he's got a great collection, a great Cleveland collection as part of Hall of Fame beef. Coming up, we're going to talk about that later. I have some other food questions related, so it's all going to tie in. Stick around for that. But, Joe, how you doing? Good to see you again.
I'm doing great. Good to see you, Bull.
Yeah, it's great to have you here and be talking football as usual. Unfortunately, as usual, fits the Browns again. As usual, they are not in contention here at 3-9. And it seems like there's always some drama, as you know, especially later in your career. There's a lot of drama with this franchise, and we're seeing it again now with everything surrounding Shedeur Sanders. And you know, when you've had guys like Johnny Manziel, and we'll talk about that later, but like he brought that on himself. A lot of the Shedeur Sanders stuff is brought on by other people on behalf of him unfairly. On the field, what you've seen, I know it's not that much of a sample size, but in 2.5 games, what's your feeling about where he's at as a football player?
Well, I think you need to be encouraged first and foremost. You've
Yeah.
seen all the good things that the Browns were excited about when they drafted him, all the things that made him such a cult hero in college, the elite accuracy down the field, the willingness to push the football, to in big moments rise to the occasion, become that leader, that
Yeah.
voice in the locker room that people look up to. But you've also seen a lot of the things on film so far that caused them to fall to the 5th round,
Yeah.
namely taking sacks, drifting the pocket, not seeing things quite clearly from a defensive standpoint, processing being a little bit slow, which leads to those sacks. So I think where you are right now after watching him for 3 games and really just 2 starts is you're very encouraged, you're hopeful, but you have yet to see that real thing that says he's definitely our franchise quarterback in the future. And really, that's what we're trying to figure out right now as he is the starter here, probably for the rest of this season. You want to be able to look at him and say, yep, I'm seeing steady growth every single week. I'm seeing that he's taking care of those bad habits.
Yeah.
He's starting to show some wow things on film, which we are seeing, but we just need to see more of them. And you just want to see that steady growth, and you want to see him being able to overcome some of those things that were bad habits that caused him to fall to the 5th round.
This past game, there's obviously a video of Jerry Jeudy, who's had a miserable season, and he's on the sideline yelling at Shedeur Sanders. I said, well, listen, it's football, it's emotional, but I haven't been on the sidelines. You would know better. Is this something that happens all the time, but it just became a big deal because it's Shedeur Sanders, or did it stand out to you?
Well, everything's going to be a big deal when you're talking about Shedeur Sanders, right?
That's
He's
true.
such a hero to so many people. He's such a big figure, well-known, popular athlete that
Yeah.
when he does have these back and forth blowups on the sidelines with your star receiver, it's going to make headlines. But I think if it was a quarterback that maybe had been around a lot longer and it was definitely his starting job, maybe it's not as big of a deal. But I think because it is Shedeur and it is in the middle of his second start and he's got his number one receiver yelling at him, who's obviously frustrated with something he did or didn't do, it becomes a big deal. But I'll say the one thing that I was happy seeing in that circumstance was you didn't see Shedeur backing down.
No,
You
that's true.
saw him rising and being that leader. You saw him going right back to Jerry Jeudy and stating his case and having that back and forth that I think those are the healthy dialogue you see on the sidelines a lot of times in the NFL, but they're also the things that happen behind closed doors. So fans don't really see it. That happens in practice. It happens in meetings. So I think it's totally normal. And to me, that my takeaway was, yeah, he's a rookie in his second start. He hasn't had a lot of reps with these starters.
Yeah.
And so he's going to make mistakes. He's going to miss throws. He's going to miss guys that were open. He's maybe going to look one way and he should have looked the other way. Like that's all part of growing as a quarterback. But the thing that was exciting was he is growing into that role as a leader, as your starting quarterback that, we hope that he can maybe be that franchise quarterback long-term. You got to be a guy who can wear big boy pants and you can have accountability. We heard it after the game from him, but you also got to be able to look your stars in the eyes and make sure that you're keeping them under control. He may have been in the wrong in that situation, but those guys on the field need to know, and on the locker room need to know that he's not a pushover. He's a guy that He's going to let his voice be heard. He's going to tell you what he feels. And as he becomes more comfortable in that position, I think you're going to see it a little bit more. And as he starts understanding the offense even further, he's going to be the one that is making sure that those guys are in line. And he's going to be the one on the sideline that's hollering at them, making sure that they get in the right spots.
Makes sense. I want to get to the offensive line in a minute because that's your expertise. Although, I mean, if you were playing now, you couldn't play offensive line anymore. You're not big enough. You'd have to probably play tight end. So let's talk about tight end. Harold Fannin has made quite the impact as a rookie. Leads the team in receiving yards, just over 500. He's a raw prospect. You know, he played at Bowling Green, but he was unstoppable last year, even against the big schools. They could not stop me in a great season. You know, obviously it's not a great offense right now, but he's shown a ton of promise. What's your thoughts on what you've seen of him so far?
You got to be super excited about him. You know, David Njoku's been a great tight end for us for a long time, but he's starting to get to the end of his career. We don't know how many more seasons he's going to put together. And you want to be able to have a guy that can replace him in the passing game, be a great red zone threat, be a really good blocker. Because I think one thing people don't appreciate enough is David Njoku's blocking. He's a very, very good zone blocker. He's a good inline blocker, especially when you consider he's a tight end, which those guys aren't usually very good blockers. They're usually the ones that are looking over to me on the line going, "Hey, Joe, can you help me out on this one?" I'm like, yeah, I got it. I'm going to do my job. And if it calls for some help, I'll give you a little bit there, but I'm not going to go out of my way and leave my guy to go help you. So I think he's a great player, and having a young player like Harold Fannin Jr. learning from him has been awesome. And Harold's been making a ton of plays. He's already been Shedeur Sanders' favorite target. And he's a guy that makes plays after he catches the football. And I think when you look at what Andrew Berry has done this season with the draft back in the spring, he's picked a lot of great players up front. And Harold Fannin was one of those guys that probably not a lot of people in the national scene outside of maybe Ohio knew who he was, but he's definitely been a diamond in the rough. And he's a guy who we hope is going to be around for 10 plus years, making great plays for the Browns.
You know, I was talking with Leroy Horde, great Browns running back, earlier today, and I asked him, like, what did you do when you were facing great pass rushers, you know, Bruce Smith and Reggie White? Like, what did you do to help the offensive line? And he said, I used to just piss off the offensive line. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, whenever I would try to chip on those guys, I would just piss them off and make them angrier. Are you buying what he's selling? Is there some truth to that? That, like, you can just tick off the superstar pass rusher?
Oh yeah. You never want to tug on Superman's cape. I always told my running backs, first and foremost, don't chip. I don't want your help, because more often than not, when I was getting chips, they were just knocking him in a direction I didn't expect the defensive end to be. And then now I'm trying to recover and they just mess me up. So first rule is don't chip. Leave me alone. And then the second rule is, whatever you do, don't talk to my D lineman and piss him off. I'm going to walk into that game and I'm going to say, hey, Mr. Suggs, how you doing? You're having a great season on film. Take it easy on us. How's the family? Did you take any vacations this offseason? You want to lull them to sleep. You want them to wake up in the middle or the end of the fourth quarter and think, oh, was I playing a game? I was just going through the motions. I didn't even notice. Oh, there's a game out here. Oh, it's over. Oh, hey, great game. You know, the last thing I wanted to do was to piss him off and, you know, take shots at his knees. So now he's trying to take shots at me or take shots at my quarterback, trying to embarrass me. So we always kind of had this little silent agreement among the offensive linemen too. Like, hey, I got Aaron Donald inside. Whatever you do when you're coming in clean in the pocket, you know, just give him a little tap. Don't knock him head over heels. Don't take his head off. Like, whatever you do, don't piss him off. You can secure the block, but do not go above and beyond and make this grown man really pissed, because when he's pissed, he is a wounded lion, and we do not want to see him going after our quarterback or any of us.
All right. So Leroy was right. You know, obviously Myles went up against Trent Williams, who's probably the best. I mean, maybe he's not the best anymore. I don't know. He's kind of older, but he's still, if not the best, one of the best. And the one sack Myles did have, I mean, that was just a crazy play that he's probably the only guy in the league could do it. I know you've talked about him, you know, a million times, but to be able to make that play against Trent Williams, how impressive was that?
That's amazing. I was watching the game from the stands on Sunday, and as soon as that play happened, I took a video and I sent it out, because it's just hard to comprehend the things that you see Myles Garrett doing. And I can't ever remember a player that I watched either before I got to the NFL, during the NFL, or since, that I watched him and I thought, you know what, if I came up with my game plan and put my best stuff out there, Uh, I don't think I can block him. The only guy that's ever happened to me watching him on film right now is Myles Garrett, because I don't really
Mm,
know what I could do to try to block him. And I know that's the feeling that every
yeah.
tackle has going into those games. And that's why he's double teamed by everybody. Trent Williams, like you said, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's going to
Yep.
walk into the Hall of Fame. He's still one of the best tackles in the NFL. And what Myles did to him by taking that big step and hitting the Euro step crossover, and basically it was like him teleporting from one part of the field to the other. You saw Trent getting back as quickly as he could,
Yeah.
which is important to block any pass rusher. But as he was moving backwards, Myles changed direction so fast. I mean, he didn't even slow down. He
Yeah.
went from a 4.540, and he maintained that somehow, doing a 180 and spinning back to the inside with that Euro step, where Trent reacted pretty fast. It wasn't like he was slow footed or anything,
Yeah.
but he just wasn't used to seeing a human move spaces so quickly and just appear over all of a sudden in here. And he didn't even get a hand on him. I
Yeah.
mean, I've had a situation like that in the past where you're dealing with fast edge rushers and you're getting back as fast as you possibly can. And they make a quick inside move and you try to shut it down, and maybe you get a little bit edgy. You just get hands on him and you're kind of pushing him and hoping to push him past the quarterback. But I can't ever remember seeing a guy that makes a move like that.
Yeah.
And you're in pretty good position, which Trent was.
Yeah.
And the defensive end is just past you. Like,
Unreal.
it's just makes me so happy that I wake up every morning in my bed without having to block Myles Garrett the day before.
Well, the guy having nightmares right now is Dan Moore. Dan Moore, who had been the Steelers one of the Steelers tackles, and he probably is like, oh, I don't have to deal with Myles Garrett anymore. I'm going to go to the Titans. Well, now, I mean, their offensive line is the worst in the league. They've given up the most sacks. Myles Garrett has killed him in the past when he was on Pittsburgh. Not only is he probably going to break this record, I don't put it past him to get 4 sacks this week and break it this week. I think that's possible. And who you would never really talk about that. Like, the idea of predicting a pass rusher to get 4 sacks is really absurd. But I think it's very reasonable that he could do it against the Titans this week. What say you?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, it's not like he's going to be blocking Myles this weekend. So it's not going to be a matter of, does he do a good job
Yeah.
locking him up? Because, Dan Moore's a fine tackle, but he's no match for Myles Garrett. And really, it just depends on how much the quarterback's going to hold the football and how many times he's going to be able to get easier double teams where maybe it's just the guard and the tackle, or maybe he just has a tight end and then line hitting him, because they're not going to allow Dan to go one-on-one against Myles Garrett at all.
Yeah. Smart.
So I think the best situation, Browns are able to get a little bit of a lead, but it's not out of touch, right?
Yeah.
It's not like a 3-score lead. It's like competitive, where Tennessee still wants to throw the football,
Right.
and they're willing to take some chances in protection.
Yeah.
They're still going to account for Myles, and the quarterback still is going to know where he is. But it's those situations where you get the quarterback to hang on to the football for another click, try to push the ball down the field. You get coordinators that get a little bit more aggressive, and they're taking the double teams away, and it's just going to be a chip, and they're trying to get that extra guy on the route because they're trying to push the ball down the field and score some more points. So if we get in that situation, Katie bar the door, watch out for 4 or 5 sacks from Myles.
Yep. Joe, I don't know if maybe this is not even a thing that guys do. I'm not sure. So maybe it's a silly question, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you have guys, like young players in the league, that like call you for advice and stuff like that? Maybe on the field and off the field stuff.
There's a few guys that I made connections with when I was at the offensive line masterminds down in Texas. Guys that I never played with that, just knew me from being at the event and given some presentations about breaking down offensive linemen and then breaking down defensive ends and how I would see them and how I would try to block them. And, I shared my information. And so I've got some guys throughout the league who do reach out and talk to me. And a lot of it's kind of cool because, you've got this part of your brain that's been trained for 20 years to do some things that, you basically never really talk about outside of offensive line meeting rooms, because it's such advanced, like nuanced, technical, biomechanical evaluation and techniques that, it's fun when you do get around some professional offensive linemen again, and you get an opportunity to kind of use that knowledge and talk about it a little bit. And so I think the thing that I get the most joy from, and I think those guys get the most benefit from, is like, all right, here's the guy I'm going against this week. These are his two best pass rush moves. Here's what I do well. Here's the film. Like, how do you think I should attack him? What are the things that I should do? What should I worry about? What should I look out for maybe in certain situations? And, just trying to give them little tips. Obviously, you don't want to overwhelm anybody with too much information, and you're never going to take the place of their coach that's
Right.
with them on a daily basis. But it is fun kind of having that O-line brotherhood throughout the league a little bit. And of course, I have it with a lot of the guys that are on the Browns from
Sure.
being around those guys all the time and spending some time them with those guys in training camp. So it is fun still kind of playing a little bit of offensive line coach and technique master from time to time.
It's got to be tough for your buddy Joel Batonio right now with everything that's going on. Obviously, there's a lot of guys struggling. He's getting older. I mean, I know he almost retired last year. Is this going to be it for him, you think? I mean, I know he's, I guess you never know till the end of the year, but.
Yeah, you never know. We had a conversation this offseason when he was kind of thinking about retirement, and I know his knee was really bothering him. And I basically just tried to give him some perspective from the outside, right?
Yeah.
Because until you're out there, you don't really know what it's like. And I'm definitely enjoying retirement, more time with the kids, more time on the farm with the cattle, being able to explore different interests and just kind of make your own schedule is the best thing. But, losing the camaraderie in the locker room is something that you can never recreate. And just playing for something every week. I know, as a Cleveland Brown, where we're always playing for the playoffs, but you still had a competition that you had to get yourself ready for on Sunday. You were testing yourself against another man that's the best in his profession as well.
Yeah.
So I think you really enjoy that. And I basically just said to him, like, hey, you got to take care of your body. And when your body says it's time and you've had enough, like it's time to walk away. But if your body's feeling good, it always makes sense to keep playing because once it's over, it's over. And you're at some point, you're always going to look back. And if you felt healthy and you felt like you could have given it another season, you're going to probably have that regret because it is drudgery going through losing, right? Like now that I'm in media, you're in media bull, like having to cover a team and talk about, another loss.
Yeah.
It's not fun, right?
Yeah,
we want to talk about the great things that the team
Absolutely.
did and like how fun this playoff run is going to be and stuff like that. And, the players, they have it even worse, obviously, because they're living it and they're taking that criticism and it's a challenge. And I think mentally is probably, I'd imagine, the hardest thing right now for Joel because he came back and kind of had hoped to be able to finish at least with a bright season, which, what does that mean? I don't know. That's individual, but it's not fun when you're going through it and people start questioning, who the coach is going to be, if the coach should be fired, who's going to be around on the offensive line. Like there's so much instability potentially and so much conversation around that instability that it is wearing mentally. But I think, it's important for him. Just take that time, get to the end of the season, have that time away from the facility, and then just see if you still have that love for the game. And if you have that feeling in the body that you can keep going. I do know that, his knees feeling better this year than it was last year. So take it for what it's worth. But, I wouldn't be surprised if he retires because he's had a heck of a career already. But, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back either.
Yeah. Joe, last year, obviously you did coached in Germany. And obviously, I mean, it seems to me from the outside that if you wanted to be a coach, I mean, I'm sure you'd be a head coach pretty quick in the NFL. I just you smart through the roof. You know the sport inside and out. Good personality. Good. You got everything it takes to be a good head coach. It seems like when a lot of people say I want to spend more time with their kids, I usually feel they're full of crap. But with you, it feels real. It feels legit that you want to spend time with your family. So is that just not in the cards at all, or is it something down the line you might consider?
Yeah, I've always said maybe I would consider coaching once the kids are out of the house, but it's true, man. I do love being around the kids. They do drive you crazy, just like everybody's kids. But my kids right now are at a fun age. My oldest is 12, my youngest is 7, so they're all in sports. And me and my wife are coaching them in basketball and football and track. And so, you only get one opportunity to do that, and so I don't want to miss that because as a coach, college or the NFL, you're spending every waking day pretty much at the office, except for a couple weeks out of the year. And
Yeah.
with the farm that I have and Hall of Fame beef business, like that
Yeah.
keeps me plenty busy, and it stokes my competitive passion plenty. And being able to
Right.
get the kids involved in the farm and some of the other
That's
things that
awesome.
I'm doing is giving me plenty of joy, where I don't feel like I'm needing to get out and coach and scratch that itch. And the Browns have always been great about allowing me to come around during training
Yeah.
camp and at points during the year and help mentor and just kind of get a little bit of an opportunity to be in that role of a coach, of a teacher, and of a mentor, which I really do love. I mean, I've always loved
Right.
teaching, I've always loved coaching, helping guys out. But certainly the commitment from just doing that as a part-time mentor to
Yeah.
being a full-time coach is more than I'm willing to
Yeah.
occupy or consider right now.
I know your wife Annie was a great basketball player and basketball coach. If you guys play one-on-one, I don't know if you do, who's winning the game right now?
Well, it depends on what the rules are. If I'm allowed to post up and back her down, we know
Yeah.
who's going to win. But
Right.
she has got the most money, like 15 to 17-foot jump shot. I feel like in her
Yeah.
driveway growing up in Hudson, Wisconsin, her and
Yeah.
her dad just ripped 1,000 of those like every week, because I don't think I've ever seen her miss. So I've never beat her in horse,
Yeah.
and playing one-on-one, it's kind
Never?
of hard to keep up with
Never?
her.
In
Never.
horse? Never. Wow.
I'm telling you, Bull, like
Yeah.
I can't dunk. That's the rule.
Oh,
And I
okay,
always
that's
try to
fair.
say the rule is no elbow or elbow extended jump shots. She played in the swing offense, so they get a lot of those. But I'm telling you, she never misses. It's
Yeah.
like more guaranteed than a free throw. So maybe someday I'll live out my dream and beat my wife in horse.
What's your kids' favorite sports? Like each one of them at this point. Do
It's
they have a
cool
favorite?
because it reminds me just the same way when I was a kid. Their
Yeah.
favorite sport is whatever season
Whatever they're
they're in
playing.
right now.
That's
and
great.
we encourage playing all the sports.
It's
So,
so
like
good.
right now it's
Yeah.
basketball, and everyone loves basketball.
Yeah, I'm glad you do that because I too many specialization. My nephew, he's a really good baseball player, and the coach told him he couldn't play football or he'd kick him off the baseball team. I was like, that's crazy. You can't do that. I got my kid playing baseball. He does swimming in the winter. He's doing wrestling. I love it. I think it's great for the kids to do all these things. All right, just want to get to one more thing, and then I want to get to Hall of Fame beef and some food questions to wrap up. But I was talking with your friend Brian Hoyer recently, and we talked about obviously the season that you guys got off to the great start, and we talked about the win over the Bengals where you guys got to 6-4, eventually a 7-5, and then eventually Johnny Manziel became the starter after Deion Sanders, like 3 weeks earlier, said, "Pay Brian Hoyer." I asked Brian flat out, like, I don't know. I hadn't known if he'd ever said it publicly. I think everybody just assumed this was the case, that Mike Pettin had his hand forced in going to Johnny that season. Do you think, and Brian admitted that he was not playing great right before he got benched, but do you think if Brian had continued to be the quarterback that year, you guys would have made the playoffs?
It's hard for me to remember exactly the situation that we were in with like
Yeah.
which teams
terms of
needed to lose
tiebreakers,
and things like that. But we would have definitely had a better record. I know that. I mean, Brian went through a little bit of a rough spell for a couple games. I don't remember exactly, but just being in those meeting rooms and remembering, like, if you were in those rooms and you
Yeah.
saw Johnny practice or you saw his preparation habits, you knew pretty well
Yeah.
what you were going to get the rest of that season.
Jeez.
And you knew that Brian was going to be a better option, but
Yeah.
a lot went into that decision, obviously, and there was a lot of people in the building that felt like we needed a spark from somebody in the locker room who happened to be our first round quarterback, and that it was his opportunity to put him out there, and that it would give the fan base some excitement, which it did. But I think that it was pretty obvious that Johnny was not going to give us better results at that point in the season than Brian. Unfortunately, whatever happened came down, and people succumbed to the pressure, the pure pressure of putting Brian Hoyer on the bench and putting Johnny Manziel in the game. And I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, it is. All right. I don't want to end on a sour note. I want to end on a happy note. And I want to know, what was your go-to meal the night before you played football? And did that change during your career?
It was fairly similar throughout my career. The catering the night before a game, it tends to change a little bit with different nutritionists and coaches, but for the most part, it's pretty similar. And so for me, it was spaghetti with meat sauce, garlic bread, You want to have those carbs, you want to have some
Yeah.
of that protein. I would always throw a New York strip steak on there, or sometimes they had like
Nice.
little fillets for us. So I'd put a couple of
Yeah.
those on there. But then the snacking was really the best part. I mean, you had your meat, potato stuff, but they would always have like a snack for us, we'd come
Nice.
back, the whole line would get together, we'd all like crowd around the ice
Yeah.
cream table, and we get these massive mounded bowls of ice cream with chocolate syrup and sprinkles and nuts and stuff. And then we'd eat that, and they'd
Yeah.
always have a couple of these nice big warm chocolate chip cookies. So you
Oh
put
my
those on the
gosh.
bottom, and then I always take some stuff to go, because then they had like chicken wings and French
Yeah.
fries that we could take to go and eat like as that late night
Oh
snack
yeah.
right before you went to bed.
Yeah.
But for us, we're
Yeah.
burning 7,000-8,000 calories in a
Yeah.
3-hour window, and so I was trying to load as many
Wow.
calories and carbs into my body as I
Yeah.
possibly could going into the game, knowing that I was going to burn through most of my reserves probably by about halftime or the third quarter, and I was going to be on the sideline eating PB&Js and Power
Yeah.
Bar, granola bars.
Yeah.
So it was a big meal. It was a feast among the
Wow.
offensive linemen the night before a game.
Here I'm thinking like Joe and all these guys, great athletes. They may be big. I think you're eating broiled chicken, broccoli. You're just stuffing with everything. That's
Gotta have the
amazing. I
calories,
love
Bull. You
that.
you gotta have them,
I
man. Some
love
of the
it.
receivers, the guys that are a little skinnier,
Yeah.
they want to feel light and fast.
Yeah.
They might eat fish or boiled chicken, stuff like that, broccoli, but not us big guys. We need those calories.
You can only eat one steak ever for the rest of your life. What steak are you eating?
Well, Hall of Fame beef, full blood Wagyu ribeye with the bone in, like a nice big tomahawk
That's
with
it.
the bone. And after I eat the steak, I'm going to be nibbling on all those little delicious morsels that are
That's it.
crisped up on the bone and sucking
Yeah.
the marrow a little bit out of that thing.
You may have gotten thin, but you still got the big guy mentality because
Oh, yeah.
every guy, you were in good shape, but you're a big guy. I'm fat, and I like ribeyes the steak. These little skinny guys are always like the fillet is the best steak. I'm like a fillet's okay, but it's not a ribeye. Or the strip, as you mentioned before, would be my second choice, but nothing beats a ribeye. All right, let's talk about Hall of Fame beef and what you got going on this winter. Because you got a lot of cool stuff, and you've partnered with some other Cleveland businesses that people love.
Yeah, we're super excited. We put together a bunch of these holiday gift boxes to kind of make the holiday gifting season easy for people, right? So they can just go to our website, hallofffamebeef.com. They can hit the easy button. They can go right there and see all of our gift options. And we wanted to make sure that there was some cool stuff from our people from Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
As a guy who spent the most of his adult life in Cleveland, played his whole career there,
Yeah.
and 3 of my 4 kids were born there. Like, we want to do something cool for Cleveland. So we partnered with some other cool companies that have some awesome holiday gift options for the holiday season. We got the GV Art shirt right there. You can see we've got the All Cleveland coffee. We've got some stuff from the farm, of course. We've got our beef sticks and our jerky, and then a cool Wisconsin cheese that's made at the creamery right next door to my farm in Muscadet, Wisconsin. That's Meister cheese. And then we got the Mally's gift package right there, right? Mally's, another great Ohio company with all the different chocolate and nut packages that go in there. And then we got with Stadium Mustard, which was really cool. And we made a Stadium summer sausage. So we used their mustard blend and we used it into our Wagyu summer sausage. And it just turned out to be a fantastic, amazing summer sausage. That's really good this time of year. People are going over to holiday parties and stuff. You got to have those cheese and crackers and those summer sausage slices. And then depending on which box you get with the Cleveland collab, if you get the premium, you get autographed pictures and cards from me and Stipe Miocic, who's another Cleveland legend that's involved with that. So a lot of good stuff going on. And for people that are sports fans that are from Ohio, we just wanted to give them that easy button. You don't have to hang it on the wall. You don't have to find new space for another tie in your closet. You can just go ahead, buy that, and it'll be gone and eaten by the end of Christmas night for sure.
Yeah, this is the best possible gift, especially for if you have a big guy in your life, because you got cheese, you got beef, everybody loves the T-shirts. I mean, no city in America wears more like city authentic T-shirts than Cleveland. It just can't be topped. So this is a perfect gift. Again, the website is hallofffamebeef.com. You see it right up there, and go check it out. It's really cool. And the one with the big one with the premium with Joe's autograph and Stipe's autograph is really cool. Joe, thank you for joining me. Happy holidays to you and your family, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Happy holidays, Bull. Thanks for having me on.
Great to talk with my guy, Joe Thomas. He's always a pleasure to have on, always a class act. This guy can do anything: media, play football, be a coach. Whatever he's going to do it well. Again, make sure you check out his website, hallofamebeef.com. Some great deals, some great food. I've tried some myself. Bet Rivers players who place a same-game parlay of at least $10 on NFL or NCAA football games will receive an entry into the weekly Squares game. Winning Squares can earn up to a $50 bonus bet per entry. See the Bet Rivers app or the website for full details. You could be a winner. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. Dustin and I will be live Thursday morning at 9 a.m. We'll be joining you again then. Mary Kay Cabot on Friday, and I'll be on live after the game between the Browns and the Titans on Sunday. Until then, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks to Z and Alex for producing today. You've been watching The Bullpen with Adam the Bull, part of the Bet Rivers Network. See you, everybody.